classical Chinese is a very abstract language. You can translate in different ways. Still, it is correct, no? Sanskrit is much more precise. So, we have analyzed the aspect of mind as suchness. Right? It has been analyzed yesterday, day before yesterday. You should get clarity about it. We have analyzed the mind as suchness in terms of its essence. When we analyze the mind as suchness in terms of its essence, then there is nothing to speak about, nothing to think about, nothing to hold, nothing to grasp. Yet it is there, but it is hidden. This suchness hidden in the form is called Tathagata Garbha. It is the Buddhahood. So, when you understand it, when you have faith in it, when you can see it, not just by the logical method, but by the faith method. Faith method brings you to the direct understanding. So that is why you have awakening of the faith in Mahayana. If you don't have faith in that your essence is Buddha, you will not become a Buddha. It is. You have to have firm conviction that indeed you are not different from the Buddha. Using non-dualistic understanding, if you are different from the Buddha, you will never become a Buddha. Right? But you are also not the same as Buddha. If you think you are same as Buddha, your mind is making nonsense. So this is a true way the things are. Neither same as their essence, nor different from their essence. So this is the importance of the non-dualistic approach. So as far as essence is concerned, it is ungraspable, it is unspeakable, it is beyond prapancha, beyond extension through desire, through perception, through sensation. We cannot understand it. Impossible. No way to understand it. but it can only be understood through its manifestations, through its characteristics, through its lakshana. If we don't have a lakshana, we cannot grasp. So whenever the thought arises, there is a lakshana. If the thought does not arise, there is no lakshana, there is nothing, no characteristic to be distinguished. So to understand the Buddha, you have to understand the essence, and you also have to understand this lakshana, the characteristics of this essence. In these characteristics of this essence, you will find the function of this essence. If the essence has no characteristics, has no function, that essence cannot work anywhere. It works because it has characteristics and it has essence. About the essence you cannot grasp. But as soon as you start thinking, then you only can think about the characteristics. You cannot think about the essence. Because the essence is ungraspable. So as soon as you think about the essence, as you think about the Buddhahood, you cannot avoid talking. It is impossible. This is the paradox. So the essence we can understand through understanding that there is that which is beyond speaking. But then we have seen this essence will have no use without the characteristics. So you distinguish the suchness through essence and through characteristics. The characteristics is the use of the essence. So this we have explained yesterday. These characteristics of the essence also. You should understand that they are neither existent nor non-existent. Neither existent nor non-existent. That is the logic of the emptiness. So when you start to think, you have to think about this logic. When you start thinking, you are starting distinguishing, right? So distinguishing in emptiness. Thinking in emptiness. But in order to learn to think in emptiness, what do you need? You need to understand that side of the mind. We have learned there are two sides of the mind. The one which does not arise and does not cease, and the one which is arising and the ceasing. They are related. Nothing exists non-related. Just like essence can only be expressed through the characteristics, through the lakshanas, and that is the use of the essence. Similarly, that which you cannot grasp can be only understood through that which you can grasp, and that is impermanence. Impermanence means arising and cessation. In Chinese, samsara and impermanence is the same word. no difference. Arising means Shen, cessation means Mie. So, in order to understand the highest reality, you have to understand that aspect, not only that aspect of the mind which never arose. You have to understand that aspect of the mind which is always arising and passing away. Whatever arises, that passes away. Whatever arises, that passes away, even in the shortest time that one can imagine, and which is beyond imagination, but you can experience in samadhi. When you do vipassana, with samadhi, you can experience the arising and passing away, moment by moment. Our body and mind connected with it is, Visuddhimagga explained, like bubbles. This is the Bhanga Jnana. In order to see Bhanga Jnana, you need samadhi, but you can see it with upachara samadhi. You cannot see it with when you join with the object. Upachara samadhi means a samadhi where you enter and go away from bhavanga, but normally you cannot be conscious of it, but in upachara samadhi you can be conscious of it. There has to be, in order that everything appears as bubbles, there has to be continuity. And that continuity is alaya, that continuity is bhavanga, that continuity is explained, and you can only understand when you can understand the essence only when you understand the continuity, right? You can only understand that which does not arise and does not pass away only when you understand that which arises and passes away. Similarly, that which does not arise and pass away, you can only understand through its essence and through its characteristics. The mind, which has some content, which you can grasp, is the impermanent mind. Right? This is very important to understand. This is the Buddhist approach. You don't go right away to the ultimate reality. You go to the ultimate reality through penetration of that, or to relation to that ultimate reality, to that which we experience. And that which we experience is arising and passing in every moment. The ultimate reality is neither same as it nor different from it. If it was same as it, we would never be liberated. If it was different from it, we would also never be liberated. That is the non-dualistic logic. And this is not true only for the mind, it is true for all the phenomena. That's why in this tradition Buddha is not that which has characteristics. The real Buddha is that which has no characteristics. You cannot grasp Buddha by characteristics. Only by that which has no characteristics. And that which has no characteristics contains all virtues we have learned in the previous paragraph. But in order to understand all its virtues, you have to study the mind which arises and passes away. So now we study the aspect of the mind which passes and which arises and passes. In other words, we study the samsara. Samsara can only exist in relation to nirvana, otherwise our effort is useless. Nirvana can only exist in regard to samsara. If it is separated from samsara, then nobody can attain nirvana. It is impossible. So this is a true nature of the things. They are neither same nor different. The beings are neither same as Buddha, no different from the Buddha, but they make one whole. So the mind, the beings, and the Buddha, they are inseparable. If they were inseparable, there would be no way to get out of suffering. This is a non-dualistic approach. Mind, Buddha, living beings, they form one, not two. So the scriptures say, as far as samsara is concerned, as far as rising and passing away is concerned, this passing and arising appears or is dependent on the Tathagata Garbha. We have said Maitreya tradition. Now I'm going to teach in Hong Kong. Maitreya tradition has two lineages. One is based on Alaya, and one is based on the Tathagata Garbha. They complement each other. That is Zen. Here we have the tradition based on Tathagata Garbha. Everything arises what we experience arises on the base of Tathagata Garbha. Tathagata Garbha is the essence of the mind. But this essence of the mind is shrouded in dense clouds of our ignorance. But in non-dualistic approach, it must be there so that we can wake up. If it is not there, how will we wake up? Because if nirvana is, this is Nagarjuna's logic, if nirvana is separated from samsara, if samsara is separated from nirvana, then no one can become the Buddha. It is impossible. So this samsara must exist on the base of the Buddhahood hidden by ignorance in the mind of the beings. When the that which neither arises nor passes, and that which arises and passes, they are together. neither same nor different. That is what we call alaya vijnana. Please understand clearly. When that aspect of the mind, which does not change, and that aspect of the mind which is always changing, appear together, this is a state of the beings. That is what we call alaya vijnana. Alaya vijnana is the mind which has abode. The mind which has abode is condition of the beings. The mind which has no abode is a condition of an arahat, is a condition of the Buddha. Now, the condition of us, beings, who are still subjected to the arising and passing, which we consider to be true, therefore we have our attachments. Because we have our attachments, we are still living beings, we are not Buddhas. So, in our condition, the mind and the reality that we experience is the alaya consciousness, the consciousness which dwells. Where does it dwell? In our karma. Because it dwells in our karma, it dwells in our imprints in the mind. So we cannot let go because these imprints in the mind, they are object to such strong bondage, no? But the real mind has no abode. So the BPada calls the Arahat or the Buddha calls Anoka. He has no abode in this world. This world is empty. Because this world is empty, the mind is empty. Because the mind is empty, this world is empty. Our mind is not empty, so we have abode. And this abode is alaya. In this alaya is mixed the Buddhahood and our samsaric existence based on karma. Now we hold to this karma as being true, therefore we hold to the self, no? But when we become an arahat, when we become a realized bodhisattva, this karma does not appear as a real, it appears as a dream. It is a maya. So, as Lankavatara gives a very wonderful example, Lankavatara is very important for the Zen tradition, for Chinese tradition. We are like the silk cocoon, what do you say? Cocoon, silk cocoon. We have ourselves, we have bound ourselves in this silk net, and we can't go out. But we ourselves have bound ourselves, so the only ourselves we are to blame. And so we are waving and waving and waving. But all these are just dreams. So Lankavatara Sutra. So, even so we are waving like this, still we are not separated from the state of Buddhahood. That is why we will learn knowing ignorance is knowing light is knowing ignorance. Next, this consciousness, this alaya consciousness, this consciousness which dwells in the world, has two aspects. Again, always two. Nothing comes alone. Very important. That is why the bodhicitta is so important. So this consciousness, this alaya consciousness, has two aspects. The artha means aspect, artha means also object. So this is in Chinese same like in Sanskrit, but in English it is quite different, object and meaning or aspect. So this makes the challenge for the translator. Every language has its logic. So here the translation of the artha of I is best by aspect. Two aspects, it fits the most, but we have to remember it also means two objects, because everything happens in the mind. We are discussing the cittamatrata. So also two objects, also two aspects, also two phenomena, also two meanings. Very wide. This is this wide sphere of meaning is a challenge to the mind. We always want to cut, and that makes us stupid. If it is not A, it must be B. If it is not B, it must be A. But in reality, A and B always exist together. One who separates is the one who makes illusions. So this mind has two aspects. And these two aspects can imply, contain, gather, samgraha. How we translate best samgraha can imply, contain. Yeah, it's okay. Can contain all the dharmas, all the phenomena. We have learned that this mind can contain all the phenomena. That is the same as this mind which is dharma. But here we have a different thing. But it can also give rise to all the phenomena. Not only imply all phenomena, but gives rise to all the phenomena. Only the impermanent mind can give rise to all the phenomena. That mind which does not change cannot give rise to all the phenomena. And that mind which rises and whose arising is so subtle that we don't see it, that is the alaya. That is a bhavanga. It's not easy to see the bhavanga. The mind which is responsible for our present existence and which will be responsible for our next existence. That is a very subtle mind. And this subtle mind precisely creates duality, nama, rupa. Vijnana, paccaya, nama, rupa. Right? Which mind? This mind, which has continuity. No other mind can create. No other mind can give rise to phenomena. Only that mind which we are born. And if we are not arahats, if we are not Buddhas, that is a mind with which we will be reborn. And that mind is not the same with what we are, but also not different from what we are. Very wonderful mind.
If we take contain as contenir, it's probably the best for sangraha.
Contain, okay.
Yeah, I think simply contain.
Contain. But not only contain, but also give rise. This one mind, which is the Dharma, it is said that it contains all the phenomena, but it is not said that it gives rise to all the phenomena. It is only the alaya, the mind which dwells in the world, which gives rise to all the phenomena. Not the mind which does not dwell. That mind which does not dwell does not give rise to anything. And that mind you can only see by direct vision, by direct witnessing. You cannot understand this mind by ordinary thinking. But that mind which gives rise to impermanence, we can understand through ordinary thinking, which always divides things. So, in other words, it gives birth to all the dharmas, all the pure dharmas, and also all the impure dharmas. In this alaya vijnana, you have nirvana and you have samsara. In the mind which dwells in the world, in this impermanence, you have samsara, you have nirvana, you have bondage and you have liberation. So this understanding of bondage and liberation, for that you have to understand the subtle mind. You cannot understand it with a gross mind. Normally we do not see alaya. When we see object and subject as separated, we don't see that it comes from the emptiness. We don't see it. So, the Yogacara approach, this illusionary mind, it exists because without knowing this illusionary mind, we would never know nirvana. It exists, but it exists in emptiness. That's why first was analyzed this aspect of mind which is not impermanent, but we can only understand it when we understand the aspect of mind which is impermanent. And we living beings, we are living with both these aspects. When they meet together, we have the consciousness which dwells in the world. That's what we beings are. We are the consciousness which dwells in the world. How to go beyond the world? By penetrating how this consciousness works. And this is what all these divisions are about. So all the pure dharmas and all the impure dharmas, they come from this consciousness which dwells in the world. So we learn the Heart Sutra, we recite the Heart Sutra, the Avalokiteshvara sees the 5 aggregates, they are neither pure nor impure. So this is the Yogacara interpretation. Now he asks how can these explain these two aspects. In other words, the question naturally arises. And he says, the one aspect is the aspect of the body, jie. One aspect is the aspect of the body. So if we don't have body in the mind, how can it arise? It can only arise when it is in the mind. Because everything arises in the mind. In this tradition, it is always there. It is always there, but hidden by very thick, super thick clouds of ignorance. But it is there. So this aspect of the body, it does not arise and does not pass away. Now there is another aspect which is called pujye, the no body. According to Ghana-Vyuha Sutra, which is also very popular in the Yogacara tradition, it says that Vijnana, Manas and Chitta, they are only one, and that is body. That is important for understanding the Zen tradition. So the mind through which we differentiate, the mind through which we think that we are something separate from others, the mind which is alaya vijnana, which collects our karma and which is the reason for our continuity, all these minds are just one mind, body, but not for you, for the Buddha. But what is the difference between the tradition of the disciples and the tradition of the bodhisattvas? Transcendental wisdom. This body is prakriti nirvana. Nirvana is a natural state of beings. But because we don't understand the natural state of beings, we are roaming and roaming and roaming. So the commentary in Pali to Satipatthana Sutta explained the Buddha has not discovered any nirvana. He has discovered only the city lost deep in the jungle, to which nobody has the access, but there is only 4 entrances to this hidden city in the jungle, and these are the 4 foundations of mindfulness. So this is nothing new, all these ideas were there, only they are treated in a different way. And this non-dualistic approach, at least in this tradition, it says when you understand it, your progress will be much faster. How fast? 3 incalculable kalpas. 100,000 small kalpas. Very wonderful teaching.
But in a small flask there is some hot water.
Oh, okay. So all this is called the Miaofa, the wonderful Dharma. The wonderful Dharma is that Dharma in which everything is connected. And the gate to this wonderful Dharma is the Alaya Vijnana. It is called. So, we beings, we are always living with 2 aspects of the mind. One is enlightenment and one is non-enlightenment. 觉, 不觉. 觉 translates in Chinese body. But 觉 also is awareness. 觉 means awareness, 觉 means body. So, why are we not the Buddhas? Because our awareness has not ripened. When the awareness has ripened, there is only one mind, and that is awareness. So, awareness in the Yogacara tradition equals suchness. Suchness equals awareness. This is what Bodhisattva Bhumi of Yogacara Bhumi Shastra explains. The suchness is awareness. Awareness is suchness. So, how far you are separated from the body is how developed is your awareness. And he explains that which we call the enlightenment aspect, awareness aspect of the alaya consciousness in which everything is mixed together. It is the mind, the citta, which is free from nien, which we can translate as thoughts. The Buddha does not need to think about the object, he just reflects the object like a mirror. And all objects are contained in it because his mind is like the space, he does not dwell anywhere. So the Khema Sutta says, you can never understand the Vedana of the Buddha because he does not dwell anywhere. Can never understand the Vedana of the Buddha, it does not dwell anywhere. The uncle of the great Sariputta, the Shariputra, is called the long nail, Digha Naka. There is a Digha Naka Sutta, very wonderful, in the Majjhima Nikaya. This Digha Naka says to the Buddha, he thinks that he has some kind of realization, and he says to the Buddha, there is nothing I like. So what he wants is just to abandon the Vedana, and he thinks by abandoning the Vedana you will attain the realization. They were practicing what in India some yogis still practice, the non-perception samadhi. In Bihar, when I was studying in Nalanda, there was one sadhu called Pilot Baba. Have you heard of Pilot Baba? Pilot Baba is a very good yogi and a showman. He had a Japanese lady disciple who could also perform all his same deeds. What he did, he has such a strong will that he can stop his heart for some time. So they dig a ditch, you say?
Or a
Hole. In the Gandhi Maidan in Patna, and he has performed in other places. He goes to that hole, he sits in deep concentration. I was not there, but they told me. And they cover him with the earth, and after some days, then they dig him out. Then he goes out of samadhi, he waves to the cameras, it was in television, and drinks some milk and goes away, bye. And that he performed in several places, and this Japanese lady also doing this. He lives together with a Japanese lady. But this is, from the point of view of Buddhism, this is not the samadhi to be cultivated just by will. You stop the process of the perception and sensation. You have to stop it by wisdom. And that is Sanya Vedaita Samapati. When you attain Sanya Vedaita Samapati, you are wise. Why? The subject is nirvana, the object is also nirvana. So you are very clear about the meaning of Buddhism. As long as we differentiate, always problem. So that is why the concentration is so important. Unless you have mastered all the samadhis, you can never do it. When you master all the samadhis and do vipassana, you can let go everything. And then it is true. Not by will. So you can perform great things, but you are not a Buddha. So to understand the Buddhahood, he explains that which is enlightenment, aspect of enlightenment in the alaya. It has two aspects, enlightenment and non-enlightenment, or awareness and non-awareness. In this case, enlightenment is maybe better even than awareness. So that which we call the aspect of enlightenment means the essence of the mind which is free from thinking. And that which is free from thinking is equal to the akasa dhatu, to the space, to the element of the space. And like the space, it can penetrate everything. So then he explains this essence is the Dharma Dhatu, Tathagata, Tatha, Tathata, suchness is a synonym of Dharma Dhatu in this case, in the non-dualistic understanding. This Dharma Dhatu has one characteristic, which is the Dharma body of the Tathagata, which is always the same. Dharma body of the Tathagata, which is always the same. Which is sameness. This Dharma body of the Tathagata is a sameness, pintang, always perfect balance, no motion. You don't need any effort. It is anabhoga, without any effortless. Now, very interesting, this is Zen, very Zen. If you want to understand the Chinese tradition, it is also connected with Taoism. He says, on the base of this Dharma body, we explain the aspect of non-enlightenment. On the base of this Dharma body, which is the aspect of enlightenment, we explain the non-enlightenment. Very wonderful. You can understand non-enlightenment only if you have enlightenment, if you can only understand enlightenment in the light of non-enlightenment. So that which is Tao has no words. But yet, when you want to understand it, you have to understand it on the base of the phenomena. And holding to the phenomena is a non-enlightenment. Non-enlightenment becomes clear on the base of enlightenment. Enlightenment becomes clear on the base of non-enlightenment. This is a non-dualistic approach. So, on the base of this Dharmakaya, we explain the Pen-Chue. Pen-Chue means the original enlightenment. Original enlightenment. If you don't understand the non-enlightenment, how can you understand that you have a Buddha in yourself? Right? So your understanding that you have a Buddha in yourself, ehipassiko, opanayiko. You have to understand the non-enlightenment. And that we call the original enlightenment. The Transcendental Wisdom Sutra speaks of 4 kinds of nirvana, not just 2 kinds of nirvana. Normally we have only 2 kinds of nirvana. When the Arahat is still alive, it is nirvana with the rest. When the Arahat dies, it is nirvana without the rest. Now we have 4 kinds of nirvana in the Transcendental Wisdom. The natural nirvana, and the nirvana of not establishing anything in the mind. Apratishtita nirvana. Prakriti nirvana, apratishtita nirvana. And how to practice the non-established nirvana? Daimon Sutra explains, I have already mentioned, giving rise to the mind without letting it dwell anywhere. This is a practice. You cannot live without giving rise to the mind. But wise living is living, giving rise to the mind, but not let it dwell anywhere. This is very important. This is what one has to learn through meditation. When we let the mind dwell, we have to know it is a mistake. Okay, so now to question and answers. We will not get far in this text because it is quite long and very dense. But I hope you can catch something from the depths of this text. In my experience, this density is maybe only Mula Madhyamika Karikas of the Nagarjuna, which have such a density of meaning. It is very, very... It was composed by Ashwagosha, no matter whether it is Ashwagosha or some great monk who was very, very realized. And maybe he was so realized he did not want to leave any name even. We all want to leave the name, so we get attached. Okay, so now question and answers.
Wonderful.
You are such a good student, you should immediately ask something.
Bhante, what happens when everybody attains Nirvana?
Pardon?
What happens when everyone attains Nirvana?
That is your fantasy. That nothing happens.
Thank you.
Nothing.
So Bhantaji, I'm just trying to put two statements together and check with you if that makes sense. Okay. So when we talk about Alaya Vigyan, we talk about the Bodhi aspect, and that is something we call as the Akash Dhatu.
No, you have completely misunderstood. It is only comparison.
So the Akash Dhatu is only for comparison.
Akasha is a dead thing.
Right.
It is illusion.
Okay.
But this mind is very much living. That is awareness. Where do you find awareness in the Akasha? Akasha is a completely dead thing.
It's just
but the mind
element.
Is the life. Mind is alive.
In Hakeda's translation, he specifically uses the word analogous to that, to the empty space, to make the point that it pervades everywhere. I think it's this pervasiveness.
It is just comparison. It comes also in the text. He explained there are some who are very confused and mistake the Tathagata Garbha for the space. They are completely mistaken because the Tathagata Garbha contains all virtues. Space has no virtues whatsoever. These virtues belong to Tathagata Garbha, not to beings. This is a great thing. When we can practice like that, the enlightenment becomes much easier. All the virtues do not belong to beings, they belong to the highest reality. Yeah. And we are practicing by attuning to the highest reality. The highest reality is always generous. Highest reality is always discipline, because it is a law. The highest reality is always patient. Highest reality is never lazy. Highest reality is always concentrated, and highest reality contains all the wisdoms. So this makes the practice much easier. The Transcendental Wisdom Sutras explain. If we connect the virtues with an individual, we are out of the way. That's why when Bodhidharma came to China, he was very impressive. So the Emperor Wu of the Liang dynasty, he invited him to the court. He came to the court, and because he thought that he is very smart, he has done for Buddhism so much as no other emperor has ever done. He has built so many monasteries, allowed to ordain so many monks, and supported Buddhism as no other emperor in China. Now this hippie comes to his presence and he says, I have built so many monasteries, so what is my merit? And he says, no merit. He got a shock. Such a thing, he was very proud as an emperor. Such a shock he has never experienced. So he got very angry. Of course, he did not let it out, but he was very angry in the heart. So he asked, and if you say so, who is standing there? And he said, Pusha, I do not differentiate. In Chinese, Pusha means differentiate and also means I do not know. This is the paradox. I do not know, I do not differentiate. And he goes right away without saying anything else. No? The emperor is in shock, then he asks his ministers, what kind of man was this? And they say, he is no one else but the Quan Sha Yin Bosa, Chenrezig himself, the goddess of compassion. So then he tries to search, but he's already gone. It's a very nice story. If we make merit and we are proud of making merit, then it is very little merit. If we make merit and nobody, and we do it naturally, without thinking that there is one doing merit, that is a great merit. Even if it is a small thing we give, that is a great merit. But we always do good things, that is, I'm doing the good. That is a trouble. It comes automatically. Unfortunately, this habit in us is so strong to identify with whatever good we do. Okay. Yes.
Bhante, what is the non-enlightenment aspect of the mind when one achieves nirvana?
When one achieves nirvana, there is only one aspect of the mind, and that is awareness. Awareness is suchness.
Because when we were describing like the alaya vijnana, there were these two aspects.
Yes, sure.
And so
these two aspects.
When you reach nirvana, these two aspects.
Well, these two aspects are only in impermanent mind, in divisive mind, which makes divisions. In nirvana, we don't make any divisions. Because you are not in nirvana, you need divisions to understand nirvana. But in nirvana, everything is the same. Yet the differences are there. But you do not dwell on them. That is the aspect of enlightenment. That is explanation. Explanation is and the reality are not the same. That is your problem. You think that there is a concept and the reality are the same. They are not the same. You have to experience. When you experience the Dharma, you don't need the Dharma. Why you need the Dharma? Because you have not experienced the Dharma. This is the freedom of an Arahat, of a Buddha. You need the raft to get to the other shore. When you get to the other shore, you carry the raft on your shoulders, then you are stupid. Right? That is the greatness of Buddhism. No other religion says that. No religion. Arahat has no religion. Buddha has no religion. We beings need a religion. Christ also does not need any Christianity. We being needs Christianity. Because we are living in paradox. The Buddha does not live in paradox.
But in answer to Cedric's question as well, is it helpful to say that the Buddha has transcended alaya actually?
Yes, sure. That is the meaning of the Vijnana Paravriti. I have explained there are 5 stages in the Yogacara meditation. The last one is the revolution of the alaya consciousness. The alaya consciousness becomes nirvana. So, no more aspects. Now we are stupid, so we need many, many aspects to understand. So, we need this treatise. When you are a Buddha, you don't need this treatise, but when you open the mouth, you will hardly find a better treatise than this. So even the Buddhas will admire the wise man who has composed the treatise like this. Many Buddhas, but very few who can compose such treatise. The Arahat is also the Buddha, but he has no Dharmakaya. To get the Dharmakaya, you have to practice non-dualistic approach. Otherwise the same.
Bhanteji, I have a question regarding the text we did in the morning. When we do the thorough training by engaging with the aggregates, at that point, what exactly, is it correct to understand that what would be the practice instruction?
He translates engaging, but actually it means that the parichaya.
Familiarity.
Familiarity with the aggregate.
So is it that one familiarizes with the aggregates as being impermanent? Is that the practice instruction?
Non-self.
Non-self.
Non-self, not belonging to the self. Then you can understand dependent origination. But if they belong to the self, you cannot understand dependent origination.
Right.
Dependent origination explains the suffering of samsara. You cannot understand suffering of samsara without penetrating the dependent origination. But it also explains the way out of samsara.
Yes. So in the second step, when the practitioner is familiarizing with the aggregates, they are seeing each aggregate as being non-self. And then in the third step,
the non-self means impermanence. Permanence means the non-self. That which is impermanent is dukkha, that which is dukkha cannot be the self. So you have these three aspects at the same time, if you are wise. That is familiarity. If you only see impermanence, it does not mean that you understand non-self.
Exactly. So can you help to say how one can be wise and see all these three things?
Well, because you are not wise, because you are always separating.
I see.
That is why you need non-dualistic approach. There is no real experience of impermanence without understanding the non-self. But still you have to separate them in order to understand. But now you don't know the true reality, so you always rely on separation. When you know the true reality, you know that this separation is not so real. Now you still think that this separation is real. The Aristotelian logic is true, but this Aristotelian logic is not true as far as highest reality is concerned.
Bhanteji, would you say, so basically when you say things like only in emptiness can there be arising and ceasing?
Huh?
Only in emptiness can there be arising and ceasing. So that would be understanding impermanence and non-self together, something like that?
Why not? Yes, it's not a bad idea. Yes. But you have to experience it yourself. That is Zen. You still want to experience it? Okay. Okay. No one has a question, so we can go to meditate. So shall we have half an hour meditation? That is the best, that will make the mind shining again. Non-thinking mind is naturally shining. Please try to make it shine.